Welcome to Founders Club, the show for real estate entrepreneurs.
So in keeping it fun and doing what you want to do, I'm sure you've built the business to kind of like fit your strong suits.
Yeah.
So what does your day-to-day involvement look like in the four big ones that you're running?
Yeah, so it really kind of depends on the season of any new business that we're doing. So when we're launching a new company, then I'm heavily involved in the day-to-day. I mean, I'm fundamentally the interim general manager, heading the marketing, heading product, and Richard Lindner, who my business partner, co-founder at Digital Marketer, he's really there more on the driving the ops in the day-to-day, keeping everything in line, doing the project management. I'm there more on the marketing side. So we have a really good, solid division of labor there. So we'll kind of partner up, have creative talent, because neither of us are that creative. So when it comes to design and video and getting that, we'll go in and get something launched. But once it reaches some point of traction, once it's doing, maybe we're looking at $30,000 a month or $50,000 a month. Once it can begin to have its own dedicated team, that's when it gets it. That's when I step away. And normally what my day looks like, I've got a Monday leadership meeting. I used to be just morally opposed to Monday meetings because I wanted to get started, but now I've got to. And the most productive thing for me to do is to meet with all of our leadership team, and that includes the general managers of our different divisions. That includes the specialists that help across the different divisions. Find out how are we progressing towards our company-wide goals and what are the big initiatives that we're working on. And everybody goes around and they sort of talk about where they need help. And my primary job is just to move around and help where I can. And whether that's diving in and helping in an area that I'm particularly skilled at, whether it's making some phone calls and opening up my Rolodex, whether it's just approving additional budget, if that's what it takes. I'm primarily there to unblock blockages. Kind of like a business
unblock blockages.
plumber.
I like that. And sometimes you get your hands dirty, and sometimes it's just making a connection or providing a solution.
I show up, so I generally walk in. I walk into the door on Monday, and I generally have a sense of what I'm going to do that week, kind of what my big projects are going to be. And I always start out each week with 3 big projects that I want to execute, that I believe I can complete in that week. But the third one, I leave open. I've got a general idea of what it could do, but I sit there and I listen, and I wait. And I think at the stage where we are, I don't get to decide what I'm going to do. There's people around me, and my job is to serve them and to do what they do. So I don't have a lot of predictability often in my in my week.
Yeah.
Which I complain about. But if I'm being honest, it's kind of what I like.
You kind of like it, yeah. I feel like I totally agree with that. I like the building each week as it goes.
Right.
Totally. And what's the format for those meetings? Is that all the companies together, or it's all of them? Yeah,
so the way that we're structured, so our holding company has, there's Richard, Roland, and I, who are leading the company. So I kind of am the face of it. I'll kind of, I'll CEO, so I'll be the one primarily driving the vision and communicating the vision. Richard is president. He's more managing the operational side of it, managing the day-to-day. Roland is there, who I know you've had on the show before. Roland is the deal maker. And so Roland is going to be the one who gets us into new ventures, gets us out of existing ventures through an exit. He's handling a lot of the strategic partnerships and relationships, really good on the strategy. But he primarily is not there during the day-to-day. He's not really involved in that meeting. So it's Richard and I. It is the general managers of the different companies, and then we also have specialists who do a particular area that is needed across all the divisions. So, for example, finance and accounting is centralized.
Okay.
And so Tom, who heads finance and accounting, he's there. HR is centralized. So if somebody's talking about needing to hire, right, that's going to get discussed at a whole. We've got content and editorial is centralized. Sales, believe it or not, is centralized.
So when you say centralized, you're talking about part of the holding company, and that way you can deploy where needed across all the other 4 companies?
So our leadership team is made up of specialists, and it's made up of general managers. So general managers are essentially the CEO of a particular company. They have P&L responsibility. They're primarily revenue focused, but they drive, their own P&L. They're responsible for that P&L. they are supported by what kind of winds up working as almost an internal agency. So our sales team, we have centralized at the holding company level because it's amazing how often somebody is interested in purchasing something from Digital Marketer, but we find out, they could also use this area over here.
Wow, so you centralize sales also.
Yeah,
wow.
and that's something that we went back and forth on. It may not stay that way forever.
Yeah.
And what we do wind up placing, so creative is centralized under content and editorial. But we will, if a designer is really needed, dedicated on a division, we'll have that dedicated designer that reports into this team, but they kind of sit with the centralized group because they benefit from that,
all of it
from that
together.
camaraderie. Yeah, and so it's taken a while to build the teams to do that, and it was horribly inefficient in the beginning to figure out how everything worked.
What to centralize, what not to centralize.
Yeah, but now we can go and launch something new, and from day one, it has pretty world-class creative and content and editorial. It has, world-class finance and accounting and HR.
That's
so
great.
we can start a business from scratch, and the very first employee coming in is going to have, full benefits and health and all the other stuff that you wouldn't have at a traditional startup.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So what we really wanted to do is to create a company that can birth other companies, and that's what we've done.
I love that. Creating companies that can birth other companies. I love that.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, I know obviously your background is real estate, and a lot of the listeners are in real estate. It's not that different from owning a real estate holding company. You're going out there and you're buying different properties, and you're going to centralize. You're going to have people that they can be on the acquisition side or on the sales side across multiple properties. But in a sense, if you've got especially a multi-tenant building, that's operating kind of on its own P&L. Right?
Yeah.
So I do the same thing. It's just we're building more of a portfolio of companies as opposed to a portfolio of properties.
Because it is almost identical. Like each property would be in its own LLC, potentially have its own, but then you could centralize property management across the board.
And on our centralized, the underlying LLCs, they do pay fees to those companies. So they have contracts. So if we were to go and sell one of those companies, the contracts could be preserved. So we sold a business, last year we sold off our event, Traffic and Conversion Summit.
Right.
Well, that event, Traffic and Conversion Summit, which was its own separate company, had contracts with Digital Marketer to do the marketing and the programming. It had contracts with Boost Events, which is our internal events company. Well, we sold that business, and yet we maintain the cash flow
the contracts.
and the contracts from those, which is not, again, too dissimilar from a property holding company selling off a business and maintaining the management contracts.
Love
By the way, that's where we got the idea.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like we came up with this all on our own.
It's pretty slick, though.
I
like it.
We looked across different groups that do it. So
very cool.
To listen to this full Founders Club interview, go to foundersclub.tv.